Story 1. My father is a pastor, so we're always moving to different provinces for my father's ministry. The last place we lived in is in this old Philippine National Railways building, built during Spanish colonial period in 1892. I was 8 years old at that time. It was abandoned for many years, so my father's co-pastor lived in here and made this building a church a few years ago before we moved in. There were two pastors who lived here before us. As a pastor's kid, I'm not new to ghosts and demons. I know they are real because they are in the Bible, and my parents have had personal experience about them. So this story is actually my own personal experience. It happened when I was around 11 or 12 years old. My siblings and I have a separate room from my parents, each of us having separate beds. It was around 2 or 3 a.m. and I had a difficult time sleeping. It was December that time, so the temperature is naturally cold, so we had to put on jackets. I put my hands up on the sides of my head while laying in bed with my eyes closed when suddenly something very heavy fell on my chest. Very shocked, I opened my eyes and fear suddenly wrapped my whole body when I saw it. It was small, probably the size of a ruler for its height and half a ruler for its width, with black hair all over its body. Even though the lights were turned off, I can still see this creature because its hair is very shiny. I didn't see its face, but I could see that its arms are raised as if it was ready to strangle me. It was sitting on my chest as if riding a horse face to face with me. Despite its small size, it was definitely heavy. I could hardly breathe. I didn't move a muscle. I just stared at this creature even though I couldn't see its face, and I know it was looking back at me. I couldn't say a prayer either because I couldn't move my lips. So I said a prayer in my mind and rebuked this creature in the name of Jesus, and it suddenly disappeared, as well as the heavy feeling on my chest. In the morning, I told this story to my family and together we prayed. Since we moved in this house, we have had many paranormal experiences, but amongst my family, I've had the most numerous paranormal experiences inside this house. I will definitely share those stories with you guys next time. Thank you for reading. Story 2. Hijo, hijo. This is a Spanish word for little boy, which is addressed by our grandparents to us. The same word which gave shivers to my spine the first time I heard it in my nephew's phone. By the way, my nephew has always been a daredevil, despite the fact that the house where they have stayed has been haunted for already a decade. He has never stopped staying in the master's bedroom even at the crack of dawn, and has the habit of recording the things that he has thought to be spooky. His tale of horror started when his little sister began calling the name of her unseen imaginary friend. For the record, my niece is a 5-year-old kid who stutters a lot. There were times that her sister would play at 2 a.m. while everyone else was snoring and sleeping. She would either laugh or try to run around and would try to go upstairs. The whole family is staying at the living room. Usually they would see her doing it while saying, "Tara, Leslie, come on, Leslie, let's play." Then one time, my niece started to cry, saying her imaginary friend Leslie was forcing her to come upstairs and stay inside the big closet in the master's bedroom. Their dad and mom still asked them to pray. After a minute or two, everything went to normal and my niece was pacified. Most of his siblings cried, but my nephew, the brave one, got the nerve to comfort them, maybe because he was the eldest and he needed to make his siblings feel safe. The horror continued as the days went by, but he decided to stay in the biggest bedroom where my other cousins and aunts were sleeping. My nephew killed time playing with his smartphone, but in the middle of his game, goosebumps crawled onto his skin, and he knew it was that fateful night. Scared though, he pressed the button and started recording it. He was expecting to catch a glimpse of a shadow or a kid without eyes or so on, but he was surprised that nothing was captured on his camera. However, when he started playing the recording again, that's when he realized that the worst was about to happen. It's because that when he played it for the second time, he heard a voice, an eerie voice, like the sound of an old woman. The worst thing was, While he was playing the audio file, the voice was coming like right behind him. This made him shut his eyes and struggle to sleep. The next day, we were all stunned and horrified because we listened to the recorded audio file as well. It was true. The voice sounded like it came from beneath the grave. We were all scared for them, especially for the youngest members of the family, because according to her, Leslie was still playing with her. My nephew decided to sleep beside his sister since then. Story 3. My next story happened to me last May of 2006, when I went to a spiritual camp held by the organization that I belonged to. Actually, I didn't participate in that camp. Me and my friends who were also part of the organization just dropped by because their camp leader named Sheena invited us. At first, everything was fine. We even ate dinner there because it was already pretty late. The venue was under renovation that time because it was burnt down before. As I remembered, it was their second day at the camp. They were busy doing their activities the whole day and they were very tired. That's why everyone wanted to sleep pretty early that night. Before sleeping or ending the day, we always have a group prayer. Even the visitors were asked to join. Everyone should hold their hands and form a circle while their eyes were closed. As the prayers were being spoken by Sheena, I heard a soft cry of a woman. I couldn't stop myself from looking at the woman who's crying, so that's why I opened my eyes. When I saw the woman, she was already removed her hands from holding the persons beside her, and they were both on her sides and down on the floor. She was still crying, but this time it became even louder. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up because she was just one person away from me. Sheena continued praying even if she already knew kind of what was happening to the other people. She said that we should just ignore it and continue praying as well. But after a few minutes, everything got worse. 3 or 4 of the participants started crying and dropped down on the floor too. The others broke up the circle to help their friends, and this time Sheena stopped praying. She ordered the facilitators in the camp to assist all the persons who were suspected to be possessed. I and my friends also helped them. We formed a circle and offered a prayer while holding a candle on one hand and a rosary on the other hand. While I was praying, I noticed Sheena standing in the front of the stairs. She's saying things I couldn't understand. They said that she was using Mandarin language. Well, it actually didn't freak me out when I was looking at her, but until I saw a dark figure of a man standing near her. Though it's a bit dark on the side where I saw it, I can actually really say that he was laughing like he's insulting Sheena. As he laughed, the first girl that was possessed was getting worse and worse. She was now acting like crazy. No one could even stop her because she was so strong. She was shouting, but at the same time, Sheena and I couldn't understand her either. Her voice sounded like a man. When I looked at my wristwatch, I saw that it was near midnight and it was a full moon. I was scared because it's not done yet. I even thought that the demon-like figure might even get stronger with the full moon. But Sheena didn't give up. She didn't let the demon conquer the camp that she'd been trusted to. Well, it paid off. 5 or 10 minutes before midnight, the possession stopped. The girl cooled down and the dark sky became clear. Sheena was found kneeling in front of the stairs, tired and with sweat dripping down her face. 1 week after the incident, we talked with Sheena on a meeting. She said that she had heard the laugh of a demon on her side. She also said that it distracted her a lot of times because she was scared a bit. Well, no one can blame her. That's that time everyone was scared. The last thing she said before leaving us was, "That was close, too close," because she saw that the girl that was possessed, her spirit walking up the stairs. Good thing that they didn't stop. We were all very shocked. Story 4. I'm not really fond of telling my paranormal experiences, but after reading some stories from you guys, I've decided to join and share mine too. Not just to share, but to ask you what that was all about, if anyone can tell me what it was. The first paranormal experience or encounter that I've ever had was when I was in elementary school, maybe 5th or 6th grade. I don't remember. It happened a long time ago, and until now I'm still confused. What it could be or who it was. I was on my bed. I just woke up. It was nearly 10 o'clock in the morning. I was laying flat on my back. It was a bright and sunny morning, I could say, because I have a window in my room. I'm wide awake, but I don't feel like standing up, so I just daydreamed, as I usually do every morning. Despite the sunny day outside and the air conditioner off, I could still feel cold, so I covered my whole body with a blanket, including my face. My blanket is a thin white cloth, so I can see through it. I'm still lying on my back and my eyes are wide open. Suddenly, I saw a light just above my face. It slowly formed into a hand in a praying position. I was shocked, but I wasn't scared, not even a bit. I looked at it closely, with the blanket still on, blinking my eyes to check if it's true. It was a pair of small hands, but definitely not a kid's hand. It looked kind of feminine and a bit fat. I thought it was just my imagination, so I took my blanket off. And as I expected, nothing was there, just air. I laughed to myself, thinking I have a wild imagination, as a kid usually does. I was around 12 or 13 at that time, so I just ignored it and put my blanket back on, and to my surprise, it appeared again. It was still there, still in a prayer position and at the same place, above my face, but now it had something inside, something so bright that the lights are coming out of the pits of its hands. I was shocked, or should I say amazed, because I didn't feel any negative energy or harm. Instead, I felt somehow secured or something. I don't know, I can't explain the feeling. I stared at it until my mom walked into my room and it was gone. Anyone who has any idea what it was about, I'm glad to hear from you. Thanks. Story 5. It's been a while since I last posted a story. Work has been hectic and I've at least earned a few experiences to share. This particular one happened fairly recently, around June 2010, when my husband and I had our master bedrooms repainted. Because of the strong odor from the paint, my husband and I decided to sleep in the guest room, which was right next to our dining area. After reading a book and exchanging stories for a bit, we were both asleep. Around 2:30, I felt aware of my surroundings and I started hearing a woman's voice. I then opened my eyes and listened to it, trying to make out what she was saying. I can't say exactly if she was singing a tune or if she was crying. Worst of all, her voice sounded ethereal and I immediately knew that she wasn't of this world anymore. One minute she'd sound nearby and then another minute her voice would suddenly sound distant. It even came to a point where she sounded like she was right outside my bedroom window. The thing is, we live on the 4th floor. I decided not to tell my husband because I knew he'd probably think I was nuts. Days later, after having convinced myself that I probably dreamt about her, I heard her again. I was having lunch with my husband and dad-in-law when I suddenly heard the same singing. I was creeped out, but I chose to keep quiet about it. After lunch, I couldn't take it anymore. I went straight to the kitchen to ask our maid if she was hearing what I was hearing. To my surprise, she said, "Do you mean the woman who sounds like she's singing or crying?" "Yes, ma'am. I hear her every night." My jaw almost dropped. At the same time, I was also happy to realize that what I was hearing was real, considering the fact that I only asked her if she was hearing anything strange, yet she described what I was hearing accurately. She then went on to tell me how the woman's voice would sometimes sound like it's right outside her bedroom door. She even told me how she'd deliberately play praise songs on her CD player in an attempt to keep herself safe. And at around 2 or 3 in the morning, she'd sometimes find that her CD player was unplugged. We have no ideas who or what she needs, but I think she needs help. I've tried burning incense in every room of the house, but it only seemed to keep her away for a few days. One other strange fact about the whole experience is I never really hear her in the master's bedroom, which is only a couple of feet away. Any thoughts? Story 6. I would like to share an experience that's been recurring for some time now in our house, and always on the same floor, the attic. The attic has a couple of rooms with a laundry area and a big balcony for hanging clothes and such. There are 2 ways to get to the balcony. One is from the laundry area and the other one is from the hallway. and there was also a door to the hallway from the laundry area. This happened last year. I don't remember the exact date, but it was on my day off and it was a sunny, beautiful morning. We had a live-in help during that time that my mom was at work. My mom is always really busy, so she always needed the help. Now the help, we'll just call her Jen. She just finished doing her laundry and it was now my turn. While I was in the middle of doing my laundry, it happened. I could feel that someone was at the hallway, so I turned around and I saw someone go through the door to the balcony. I only saw the left leg since it was the last thing going through. I thought it was Jen checking on the clothes, so I called out to her to see if she needed any help. But as I got to the balcony, there wasn't anyone there. I could have sworn that it was her since the leg was a female and was wearing black leggings with a design on the end, and there was gray socks, which were the same clothes Jen was wearing. It creeped me out, so I went to check where she was, to find her in the kitchen on the first floor the whole time I was doing my laundry. I didn't tell her about it since she's really scared of those things, especially the one in her room, and that's another story. So I just shrugged it off and continued my laundry. I would sometimes still see the silhouette of a woman on her attic from time to time, but the weird part is it always seemed to be changing clothes. I can feel that it's the same presence, but it was also wearing different clothes. Sometimes I would see it with a dress or leggings, and always the lower half of it, it's really weird. The house is not that old, and we just finished building it in 2002, so I wonder why she's here and always in the attic. Thanks for reading. Story 7. I live with my family in a simple rented house. I don't know the history about the house, but it looks old to me. My neighbors say that there is a being dwelling in our home. I've actually had an encounter with this being, the first encounter being around 2010 when my dad bought a new desktop. The desktop sits in my bedroom, which is on the second floor. To the right of my computer is the hallway overlooking the street, so it's dark at night because our yard has trees. Sometimes at night when I'm using the computer, I can see something from the corner of my eye. I see it peeking from the hallway in a fast manner. There was another time when my sister's friend, who can actually see and used to talk to ghosts, came over to help my sister's project. She said she saw it sitting at our dinner table, like it was waiting for food to be prepared. Some nights when I go downstairs, which is very dark when the lights are out, I can feel someone staring or glaring at me. I've never seen the entity, but I can assure you I can feel their presence. Sometimes my dog will stare at the stairs, and when you follow her eyes, it's like she's staring at someone who's actually going down the stairs. The friend of my sister's said to my sister's other friends to stay near the owner of the house so they will not be bothered by it. To that statement, I figured that the entity does not bother us, but the other non-dwellers that visit our home will get bothered. Sometimes that friend would cry inside her house and say the entity is beside someone. Well, I'm just curious as to what kind of entity is dwelling inside her house. Let me know if you know anything about this kind of situation. Story 8. This happened about a year ago. One night after I got home from school, I went straight to our room, which my brother and I share. We have a bunk bed adjacent to the door, and when I entered our room, I found my brother on the upper bunk facing the wall. I thought he was already asleep, so I never bothered turning the overhead light on. Instead, I used the small lamp on my computer table parallel to the bunk bed. After a minute, as I prepared to take a night bath, I heard him giggle. I looked at him wondering if he was laughing in his sleep or if he was still awake just reading something in his cell phone. "So you're still awake," I said to him, but he didn't reply. I grabbed my towel and went to the bathroom. When I got there, I found the door locked. I knocked and asked who was in there, and to my surprise, I heard my brother answer from inside. At first, I couldn't believe what was happening. I just stood there in front of the bathroom door and shifted my eyes to look at our room's door. Something was telling me I had to go back in our room and see again if there was really someone on my brother's bed. But after I returned into our room, the person I saw there before was already gone. I told my brother that night that what just happened, but he didn't believe me. Next morning, I told our mom while we were having breakfast. That's when she told us that sometimes during the day, when my brother and I are at school, she could hear noises from inside our room, like something opening and slamming the cabinet doors, footsteps, and one time she said that she even heard the starting tone of the Windows XP. But when she went inside to check if either me or my brother had returned home, she would only be surprised to learn that she was alone in the house. Story 9. It was a Saturday morning. Some of our classmates, including me, were asked to go to school to finish our beautification project. We were done exactly at 11 a.m. All of our classmates, including Trishna, Karen, Ariana, and me, went home. Ariana told us to wait here at school while she'll go and buy something to eat. She didn't eat breakfast. We agreed, so we waited for her. Since there's nothing much to do, we decided to go on a ghost hunting trip. We went up to the second floor and began filming all around us with Trishna's phone while walking. As we passed by the library, we felt a cold wind around us. Trishna screamed, "Run!" Then we ran outside the gate and saw the guard. The guard is very angry with us and told us to go home. We texted Ariana to go to my place after she was done eating. At my place, we replayed the video. As we passed by the library's glass window, we saw Karen's reflection wearing a blue t-shirt in front of Trishna. Trishna was so shocked and said, "Wait, but you were behind me, right? And you're wearing a white t-shirt." Karen said, "Yes, why would I be in the front? Clearly, you're the one in the front, right? I was wearing the white t-shirt." We tried to replay it again and again, and still the same. Is this really a doppelganger of my classmate Karen? Please, I really need help. Any suggestions or advice, guys? Story 10. This happened when I was still young, around 6 or 7 years old that time. We were living in Kuwait, me, my mom, and my dad. My mom was sick during that time. She'd been sick for the past 2 years, so she always had to rest in bed. My dad had a car shop in the city and would often come home late. One specific night, when me and my mom were sleeping, I heard a knock on her front door. After a few seconds, I heard my dad say, "Child, please open the door." I looked out our window, which would let me see the front yard and directly to the front doorsteps, and I saw no one. Thinking it was my imagination, I went back to sleep. Just as I was about to doze off again, I heard another knock, and again I heard my dad asking me to open the door, this time calling me by my pet name that he only calls me with. Somehow I felt really scared by the voice, so instead of going downstairs and opening the door, I looked out the window again and same thing. No one was there on our front steps. Getting really scared, I ran back to the bed, tired, and I tried to wake up my mom, but all I ever did was get a moan out of her and she would not budge, so I hid under the covers and closed my eyes. After a few minutes, the voice came again, this time not as sweet as earlier. It had a very angry tone, and it was the voice of my dad. Knocking on the door became banging. "You open the door!" I was so afraid that I was shaking all over, but I did not budge. I stayed under the covers, trying to block out the sounds until I fell asleep. The next morning, I asked my mom if she heard anything. She said no, and she had a really good sleep. And my dad? He came home right when we were having lunch. He said that he had to stay on overtime due to a celebrity's car needing overhaul. So who was the person with my dad's voice trying to get into our house? I don't know. I'm not psychic. I don't do anything supernatural, but when I told my grandfather about it, he looked at me and said a phrase I didn't understand at the time. I didn't know what he meant, but I soon found out as I grew older, and sure enough, you'll read more of my stories about my experiences here. Thanks for letting me share my story. Story 11. First of all, I want to share to all of you an incident that happened on November 16th, 2006. It was my cousin's 18th birthday celebration in our province. I was at my cousin's house eating together with my cousins and some of their friends and my relatives. My uncle was drinking outside under the sampalak tree, together with some of his friends. I think there were about 8 people drinking. It happened so fast, a man suddenly appeared. I thought he was a friend of my uncle, and that man went to one of my uncle's friends and stabbed him 3 times in his heart. All of us were shocked. I remember that I didn't stop staring at the victim until he fell on the ground. My mom quickly called the police station. The murderer was not able to escape because my uncle and all his friends grabbed him and beat him up. The victim was wearing an orange t-shirt with the brand name of a clothing line printed on the front. I saw it when he fell on the ground. That was the very first time that I ever saw a scene like that. A year after that tragic accident, we went to our province to visit my Lolo's Puntad graveyard. It was November 1st, 2007. It was around 12:30 a.m. when we got back to my uncle's house. Me and my cousins were not yet ready to sleep at that time. I heard my aunt say, "Let's take some photos underneath the sampalak tree." So I went to take some photos, and afterwards we browsed the photos from my aunt's digicam. I was the one browsing the photos. I think it was about the 5th picture when suddenly I saw a man wearing an orange t-shirt. But the shirt is some kind of blurred image and I can't see the face of the man because it was dark. So we ignored it and continued to browse the photos. The more we browse the photos, the clearer the orange t-shirt gets. And I'm shocked to see what I saw in the photo. The orange t-shirt has the brand name of a clothing line printed on the front of the shirt. That was the same shirt that I saw a year ago on the man that was stabbed underneath the sampalak tree. I felt goosebumps all over my body, and the pictures were deleted after all because all of us were scared and we didn't think of uploading it. After that night, we went back here in Manila. It was now December 24th, 2007. A month after I saw that photo, we went back to our province to celebrate Christmas Eve. To my surprise, the sampalak tree is no longer there. I heard that my uncle ordered to cut down that tree because whenever his neighbors is passing by that tree at around 12 midnight, they always say to my uncle that they can see a man wearing an orange t-shirt. Well, after that tree was cut down, I never encountered that man again. Up until now, we still don't know the reason why that man is trapped under that tree. Story 12. This story happened around 1996, a few months before I migrated here in New Jersey. While waiting for my visa, I decided to go back to school and took a quick computer course. There I met Leo, not his real name. He was really nice and friendly, and we became the best of friends almost instantly. He was so fond of me. He said I reminded him of his girlfriend who was in another country, taking up nursing. They didn't get to spend much time together because of their conflicting schedules. They were only able to see each other maybe once a month. I've realized how much he loved his girlfriend because she's all he could ever think of, and it was always our topic of conversation. He shared all his plans for their future with me, even his plan on a marriage proposal. He planned to do it on her 21st birthday. Then one day, I woke up really early. I think it was around 4:30 a.m., and the very first thing that came to my mind was him. I didn't pay attention to it and tried to go back to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I would see his face. I was like, this is weird. I was able to go back to sleep, but woke up late. At around 7:20, my class was starting at 8 a.m., so I hurried up and took a shower, and while in the shower, I was seeing his face again. It was starting to bother me. I was on my way to class when I saw him. I thought his face was blurry and I couldn't see his eyes for some reason. He passed me and kept going down the stairs without saying a word. I asked him where he was going and that we were already late, but he didn't reply me. I went to the classroom and it was unusually quiet. Everyone was there except for him and the teacher, so I went to my seat and waited. When the teacher came, he announced that Leo was gone. He was found by his dad hanging from the ceiling in his room around 6 a.m. all I could think was I dreaming? I just saw him. This couldn't be real. That night, I went to talk with some of our classmates. I found out from his sister that he hung himself because his girlfriend left him for another guy, and that the girlfriend was seeing the guy for 10 months already before she decided to break it off with him. I also found out that he actually passed around 4:30 a.m., the same time that I woke up that morning thinking of him. I know it's been more than 10 years, but I am still thinking of him. I am still praying for his soul.